um, in general, when we were doing distance, you guys kind of struggled with it. And so I just wanted to very quickly kind of go through the distance on a coordinate plane number 1 lesson, because it seems like you did not pass it, or you struggled with it. So I thought I'd pass this along so that we could make sure that you really do understand the material. So I'm going to go through the guided learning part and a couple of the practice problems, but that's about it, because you really should be using the math help. Remember, there is the Imagine Math teacher. You don't get her unless you do try with the help 1 and the help 2. And I get that some of these shapes are really weird and whatnot, but we're not really as concerned about the shape as we are about finding the distance between two numbers, okay? So if I'm looking at a new shape of a new park is in the shape of a hexagon, which has 6 sides of equal length. On a scale drawing, the coordinates of the vertices of the park are, and then they give us those coordinates, okay? So I want you to note that the x value here is 2.5, or sorry, negative 2.5, and the x value here is 2.5. But the y value is the same, meaning that it's the same height, okay? So if that's the case, that means I'm really looking from negative 2.5 to 2.5 and not even having to worry about these 3's, okay? We know that this is a straight line because they have the same y value. Now the x values are different, but that also tells us the distance. So if I am negative 2.5 from 0, how far am I from 0? 2.5, right? Okay, well, if I am 2.5 from 0 here, and I'm 2.5 from 0 here, what's 2.5 plus 2.5? If you don't know, you can use the calculator here, and we can do 2.5 plus 2.5, and we get 5. So when I'm looking for the distance, how long each side is, and I know that it's a hexagon with the same length sides, I'm going to say that it's 5 units, because 2.5 plus 2.5 is 5 units. Then I can check my work. Okay, again, remember they have the videos here for you if you need them. So you can watch the video. Just a reminder, we are talking about the absolute value of negative 2.5 or the distance from 0. Okay, remember absolute value means distance from 0, so when we're looking at negative 2.5, that's that absolute value of negative 2.5 would be 2.5 or 2.5 away from 0. Okay, then we would move on to the next question. Okay, now this one says that we are looking at a rectangle. Okay, the points A and B have the same x value. Do you see that? But the y values are different, and it's looking for which point is halfway between A and B. So if I've got 4 and negative 2, and I draw that on my number line, that means I've got 4 positive y and negative 2y. So I'm looking for how far is 4 from negative 2. Remember, we're using that absolute value. So 4 is 4 away from 0, and negative 2 is how far away from 0? That's right. It's 2 away from 0. So what's 4 plus 2? 6. That's right. Okay, so if I'm looking for halfway between, what's half of 6? 3, exactly. So I'm going to look at this 4 and I'm going to subtract 3 to figure out where that point is going to be. And when I do that, I find that it's at 1. So here's the deal though. If the x value doesn't change here, I should not be subtracting the x value. So it's not going to be f, it's going to be g, because the x value remains 3. Otherwise, you've got this point that doesn't even fit on the line AB. It's somewhere else, okay? So this would be my answer. Now, if you don't understand what I just said, you can use the math help, okay? And what they're showing you here is this is our point A, 3, 4, okay? So the distance from 3, 4 to 0, 0, or 3, 0 would be 4, okay? And the distance from 3, -2 to 0 is 2, 1, 2, okay? Now halfway, or if I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, halfway is going to be where this dot is, okay? So 1, 2, 3 is half of 6. And that's why we find that we are at 3, 1, okay? If that doesn't help you, go on to the next help and watch the video. Okay? If you're still struggling, go ahead and ask the teacher for help. You can click the live button and have that conversation. Again, please use your notes if you can. I gave you a red notebook at the beginning of the year, and I highly recommend the use of it for this activity. Aha! Okay, and then you go into your practice round, and you can see this is actually a shorter lesson. We're only looking at 3 questions for our practice, so I will go through it with you. But remember, you need to be reading carefully because it's very easy for us to get these questions wrong when we're not reading well. And I know this is not a reading class, but it is still expected. So if a segment has an end point, and remember end point means the point at the beginning of a ray, and the points at either end of a line segment. So in this case, we're talking about the end of a line segment, okay? So that would be, the first endpoint is at 3, 2, okay? But then it says that the midpoint is at -1, 2. I'm looking for the other endpoint. So what I need to figure out is what's the distance from 3 to -1, okay? The positive distance from 3 to 0 is 3. Okay, and then the absolute value or distance from 0 for -1 is 1, meaning that to get from 3 to the midpoint at -1, I'm going 3 plus 1, which is, right, 4, okay? But now I'm going to continue to go negative 4 more points, okay? So to my -1, I need to move 4 more points to the left. So if I've got a number line, I need to think 4 points this way. Okay, so what is -1 minus 4? Well, what's 1 plus 4? And then remember, it's going to the negative direction. So that would give me a 5. Okay, now both of these have 5s, right? But the thing that doesn't change is my y value. And my y value is always the second number, and that's the 2. So that would mean that this first answer is correct. Okay, if you did not get it right, I need you to write down whatever it is that's here and read through it so that you have that as proof that you're learning, and you can use that when you get to the post quiz. Okay, so for the next one, it says we're trying to find if point K is the midpoint of L and J, which of the following is true? Now this is on an angle, so that's very tricky. You're going to have to think a little bit. The segments JK and KL are equal. So is this the same as this if the midpoint is K? Well, I think the thing that I would look for is, what does midpoint mean? So I'm going to go to M for mid and see if it's here. I don't seem to see it, but I can deduce from the other work that we've been doing that a midpoint is the middle. So is it going to be equal from J to K and K to L if K is in the middle? Yeah, I think so. But let's make sure, because it only gives us one chance for one right answer. Segment KL is 1/2 the length of JK. Is KL half the length of JK? No, if they're the same length, then this is not half of this. So that's probably not right. Segment JL is 1/2 the length of KL. Well, JL is not half KL. KL is half JL, so that's not going to work. Segment JK is longer than KL. Well, if it's halfway, meaning that this JK is the same as KL, that's got to mean that the segment JK is not longer than KL. So that's still wrong, which leaves us with the first one. Again, a lot of this is about reading. If you got it wrong, write down and read what is written here in this section. Okay, that will help. All right, the last question here we have is if point B is the midpoint of the line segment AC. Okay, it's the midpoint. It's in the middle. Okay, which is not true. Again, this is a reading part because a lot of you get these wrong because you don't read that part where it says not. Okay, so point B is halfway between points A and C. Is that true? It is, so that can't be the right answer because we're looking for the one that's not true. Segment AB is equal to BC. AB is equal to BC. Well, if B is the middle, that means this is half and this is half. And if both of them are halves, they have to be equal. So that's still true. Can't use that one as our answer. Segment AC is twice the length of BC. AC is twice as big as BC. If BC is half, and I have two halves, 1/2 plus 1/2, or 1/2 times 2, is 1. Okay, so if I've got half times 2, that's the whole thing, which is A to C. So that's also true. So let's check this last one. It says AB is 1/2 the length of BC. It's saying that A to B is half of B to C. But if they're equal, that can't be true. So this would be your right answer because it is not true. Okay, and then you're off to the quiz. Now I'm not going to tell you how to do the quiz because that is the most of your points. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Go ahead and send me a little email or Google message, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Okay? Have a great one.